Chicago is the place quarterbacks go to die. Caleb Williams has heard that. He didn't exactly die last year, though he did go through a franchise record and league leading 68 sacks as a rookie. So things were in turmoil last year. Optimism is surging, though. Ben Johnson comes in. Can he transfer the Bears offense into one of the elites like he has with Detroit? One of the best offenses there in Detroit. And he took over as offensive coordinator in 2022. And you can see here, he had some Jared Goff inherited when he came in 2022. He inherited a quarterback that had had 6 years experience by then. Had a Super Bowl appearance in 2018. Had been a very accomplished quarterback by the time he takes over in 2022. And not only that, when he takes over as offensive coordinator, this is for him saying, I've already got a really strong relationship with Jared right now. And that's because he'd been in Detroit for 3 years previously as a coach. So it isn't like they just started from nothing. Like this is the first year. They'd been with it. And they had stuff to work with too. You know, Mon St. Brown, J-Mo, and Gibbs and Montgomery, and Laporta. That's why they helped get him to the number 2 offense. And, of course, Ben Johnson. But this was 3 years in, right? He's in his 3rd year. So now we look at the Bears. Take Caleb Williams. He was the 15th fantasy quarterback last year, 13 points a game average, 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns. Had the 489 yards rushing. Though he had 0 touchdowns, you see there. A couple more would have really helped that fantasy stock. And he was number 1 pick overall. Let's bring out his running backs. We got first up DeAndre Swift. Finished 19th overall. Had that 10-point a game average. He had almost 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. So he'll operate as that number 1 back, right? And Ben Johnson had played with him before in Detroit in 2022 campaign. Then after that, they shipped him off to Philly. And they did make the offensive line improvements with Tooney, Joan Jackson, and Drew Dahlman here. That's going to help the line, no doubt. Eric Bieniemy says, hey, we got to make sure that he understands that he needs 4.5 yards between the tackles. He can pick that up. So they're talking a little technique and what he might need to work on. How about Roschon Johnson? Another back here. He finished 52nd overall. Not quite the rookie year, perhaps hoped here. Had only 150 yards rushing, but you see that 6 touchdowns. Perhaps he'll be the David Montgomery touchdown back for Ben Johnson. So you see there, he had Ben Johnson's installing an outside zone running attack that requires the quarterback to have good vision and decisive. Maybe not one of the strengths there. They did bring in another running back, Monongalia. Was a rookie out of Rutgers. All right, they picked him up in the 7th round. So, not a terrible threat to those top 2. But, hey, towards the end of the year, wouldn't be a surprise to see him in there. All right. Hey, they have the 31st position schedule for running backs. It's not so good. 31st. So it wouldn't be a surprise towards the end of the year to see this rookie in there. So what has he got to work at? Receivers. Let's bring out some of the receivers for the Bears. How about DJ Moore? DJ Moore would be their number 1 receiver last year. Finished 21st in fantasy. Kind of a disappointing year for him. 8.3 yards. Hey, didn't get the 1,000 yards receiving, though it did have 6 touchdowns. 75 yards rushing to that, too. First round way back. So he'll be their number 1. Kind of a disappointment lately. Had the 7th most touches last year. Finished 21st in fantasy with that. Just kind of falling down here lately. You can see here, had a big 2023, right? And then 2024 was a down year. So we'll see about the other receivers here. How about Rome Odunze? Now here, this would be a strength here. Was finished 47th, though, last year. I guess a little disappointment as a rookie. 734 yards, 3 touchdowns. was that number one first round pick, ninth overall. Came in with Caleb. So, going to expect more out of that as he goes into his sophomore season. They brought in Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus finished 76th. So he'd be your number 3 potentially. Or if they can get this Luther Burton III up to speed, of course, he'll be one of the weapons they have. Coaching him up here. He was a second round pick, 39 overall. So they put some draft capital into the wide receiver position, even though they had DJ Moore, who, hey, here is operating under a $27 million a year getting paid through 2029. So are they going to be making it work for him? Right? Got that a lot of money invested in him. So they go and take this rookie. So, hey, he's going to be rebuilding his receiver core. And DJ Moore got a part. He got a contract there for a while anyway. Rome Odunze and Luther Burton here. So, anyway, that's their wide receivers. Of course, they did make another move here as tight end. All right. Colston Loveland. Of course, he didn't have any stats. He was going to be a rookie, but first round pick, 10th overall. All right. So brought in a tight end. And surprised Cole Kmet maybe a little bit here. Who disappointing, finished 19th last year. So, of course, they're going to get in some work here to help Cole Kmet. Finished 30th or 19th last year. So, that's the look at the team here. Of course, finished 32nd last year. So, nowhere to go but up. Right? Caleb Williams will be operating with a 10th easiest schedule. So, that's not bad there at all. And his receivers have it pretty easy here, too, with a third easiest schedule for these three. I have Luther Burton here as a third, but the running backs, though, woo-wee, 31st schedule, so that's not so good. You think they might want to get the run up and running and going, the run game, and work on that early. So that's a look at the team. Let's look at some of these others. If you're liking what you're seeing, please hit that like. Please hit that subscribe button. Do it today. Be the first on your block. Hit that subscribe button. Thumbs up. Thank you. So we start looking at this balance sheet on Caleb Williams. Right? Ben Johnson, that's going to be an asset. It might take a while to get his system up and get it going, but a new head coach and offensive coordinator, that's a plus, right? And top 10 easy quarterback schedule. The 10th easiest, that's a plus. Everybody wants to play the easy teams. How about the running game for the Bears? And I think Ben Johnson's going to try to get that running game established. And with a 31 position schedule and maybe not the exact players he wants, that might be a liability for him and the Bears offense. How about the receivers? Certainly an asset. You got some good talent there. Brought in more talent with this Burton. And Colston Loveland, the tight end, first round capital, that's great. That's an asset. So, has offense there to work with the under center, though. This might be a liability. This kind of gives me pause here. Hey, Caleb Williams functioning under center. Well, Ben Johnson wants more of it, right? It works in Detroit. That's his scheme. Hey, Ben Johnson says create more plays for Caleb Williams, but hey, 83% of the time last year he was under shotgun. So, and that's same in college too. So he's used to a lot of shotgun, not a lot under center. That might cause a problem. So that's something that would be growing pains into this new offense. So everything had to click at once, right? Now I do have him increasing in passing yards. I factored in more rushing touchdowns, of course, and a little bit more passing TDs. It all comes up, and I upgraded him from 13.1. I crunched the numbers. He come up to about 16.2 for next year. These are ballpark figures, but hey, you got to get something to get them kind of figured in. So on my top 10, I'm working on. I'm going to do a show once I get them all figured out. I already got about 7 penciled into my top 10. So I'm trying. Can Caleb Williams fit in there? Well, I got to get Baker Mayfield in there, and he's got almost 19. on his fantasy average last year. He might come down, but he ain't going to come down that much, I don't think. And same with Patrick Mahomes. He's coming up probably a little bit with the improvements they've made on the offense and getting Rice back. How about Brock Purdy? Now, things are looking up for him, and he had a higher average than that. So these are all pushing down Caleb Williams here. Bo Nix, he had 16.45 last year. And there could be improvements there. And Dak Prescott starts pressuring in with that new addition. And Jared Goff himself, hey, he was in the 8th last year anyway, pushing in. And then you have Matthew Stafford and the Rams. Oh, Devontae Adams adding in. He could go back to those a lot of touchdowns of Puka. And Jordan Love was pushing on, and just too many. So the bottom line is, as far as top 10 ranking, and Caleb Williams, it just isn't worth the risk. Too many moving parts. We'll go into your drafts pushing that. Talk him up early, but don't take him. We'll take something cheaper, and I don't think he belongs in the top 10.